what do you think made you go from an okay fighter to like one of the elite, to eventually becoming the greatest of all time? What was it? Do you think you made that jump? Was it a skill development? Was it a kind of a mental shift? What would you attribute it to?
Was my motivation and my dedication. My motivation to be the best, which when I decided to become a fighter, to train to be a champion, I wanted to be the best. Even back then, when I was like nothing, I was one of the bottom, the bottom of the line below everyone, and no one really. That's why no one really pay attention to me. You can see as a kid someone who has talent, right? You can see, oh, this kid can be really good. So he kind of shows something when he's a child. Because I never really dedicated, stay away. I never really showed anything. So nothing that people would see and say, oh, he has great talent. For me, I was just a normal kid. And so my motivation to be the best and my dedication daily to become the best. I think were the two combinations that made me.
It's scary to think of you even considering yourself the low. Like from what we see now, it's hard to imagine you getting beaten and struggling because you have this kind of instinctual way of controlling people. Like I I watch and all sometimes as you just it looks like you're about to get swept and you just shift your leverage, your base, you just have this sort of natural flow with it. How do you set up your training to do this? Is it just rep after rep from bad positions or good positions till it becomes second nature, or how do you approach training to become such a level you are?
Uh, I think, when you approach training is like when you're going to train with someone, you facing each other, you're trying to win. You're trying to dominate the person and submit him. I think that's the goal of jiu-jitsu. You need to dominate the other person. You're going to put yourself in a strong enough position that from that position you can now have options to submit the other person. Then that's the goal. Once you can dominate someone, then submission ideally should be easier. Then if you're in an equal position, then it's very hard because the other person is in a position as strong as you. Then he's fully ready to defend your attacks. When you're in a very dominant position, like if you mounted someone or sit in the person's chest, that person's completely pinned. So for him to even to escape that position, then he'll give you something. That's the position you want to be, to have fully control of the other person before you submit. And I think it's the way to approach is like you constantly trying the same goal. It's to put the person in a pinning position and then submit him. So it's the repetition, and over again teaches you everything. Back then I used to teach, I used to train every day, twice a day. I've done that for years and years. So you kind of always sort of go back to the same situation. You train with the training partners. You have many different training partners, all levels, and then you get caught with something, and then you get caught again, and then you get caught again, and you're always trying to change something, not to get caught, to make it, to improve, to defend the situation. And I think the improvement comes from that. The person is trying to submit, to sweep you. He'll sweep you once, twice, as many times as he needs for you to change something. Then when you change, now it becomes harder. Then you improved.
Because
And
that's
sweeping, not getting swept, what you're saying is like, it's almost, when you're about to be swept, to be reversed, it's almost like standing in a medicine ball. Like you seems to be going down, almost going, and then it's like a balance, leverage, reaction of quick reaction of putting the hand there, changing the shape of your body changes everything. So that the way you're pushing the weight to the other side, those sort of things.
because that's what every time I watch it, it's like because I never saw anybody else that was tall with long limbs kind of excel the way that you were doing it, and that because I always seen these people like spinning underneath, and I mean I'm fat, I got out of shape with COVID, and I looked and it's like I need to get back to jiu-jitsu, and I couldn't see anybody doing pressure passing, and then you had this way of just dominating and controlling, and no matter where you came in what position, you were just every second you just seemed to be knowing exactly what they were going to do. So is that how you learned? You just kind of asked questions, you sat and watched, and just
I mean,
kind of put yourself out there?
yeah, of course, I had great teachers who helped me along my life. They all helped me. I've learned a lot from them. But it's I never had a teacher daily that they used to follow me, and watching my training, every training session. Then we sat down and said, "Look, you did this wrong. No, you got to do this." That I never had ever. I had uncles, my father, my cousins who always helped me, but none of them were like always beside me, looking my training and then trying to correct me after. And the way you describe, and I think for you to really master something, you have to be fully relaxed, your body. And if you're very stiff, you're very easy to be moved, very easy, and very easy to be swept, very easy to be put in positions, and you get tired. I think to really master jujitsu is the ability to fight relaxed, because then you're truly using your body, you're truly using leverage. You're not muscling your way to win, because as long as you have energy, you'll be all right, but your energy will eventually will you're tired. So I think the main thing, especially relating what you're saying, is I have a very relaxed way of fighting. Like I don't try to muscle my way into situations. Of course, there is some energy they have to put. It's not that I'm completely relaxed that I don't use strength. Of course I do, but I don't rely on strength. I rely on leverage and my technique. I think it's the one of the biggest difference between me and my opponents. It's when you try, the moment that we grab each other, we move. If you're very stiff, that means it's the lack of confidence and technique. And like I was always very positive with my skills.